Hey guys, and welcome to the video. We're going to be discussing the disaster that is the Blue Beetle movie and other DC movie losses. So get ready as we explode into this bomb of DC news. But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and stay up to date with all the movie news we have going on around here, guys. So guys, we're going to take a look at this article here from Bounding Into Comics. After 6 weekends, Blue Beetle finally surpasses its production budget. At the box office, the movie has lost tens of millions of dollars. Yeah, guys, we kind of knew that this was going to happen going forward. We knew that Blue Beetle was going to bomb. We just didn't know how hard it was going to bomb. Obviously, if you look at the track record of the last few DC films, they've all come out, they've all bombed, they've all done really, really horrifically bad. It looks like a slaughter fest. DC's like budget sheet of what their movies, what their movies have done at the box office. Have a look at this graphic here, guys, and you'll just see how bad the carnage is. Of the last sort of like 6 or 7 DC movies. It's so bad. They've struggled to make even 300 million at the box office. And yeah, like I say, we knew this Blue Beetle was going to bomb. We just didn't know to how much, like what degree it was going to bomb. But let's jump in, guys, and see what the article has to say. So, Angel Manuel Soto's Blue Beetle film finally surpassed its estimated production budget after 6 weekends in theaters. It took it 6 weeks just to pass its own production budget. That's real bad, guys. This is I cannot, I cannot state how bad that sounds, The numbers reports the film grossed 1.8 million at the domestic box office in its 6th weekend and brings its domestic box office to a total of 69.8 million. It grossed another 53 million at the international theaters for a global box office total of just 122.9 million. Yeah, guys, absolute bloodbath. This is so bad. I hate to be the one to say it, but obviously the DC Reboot is coming in a couple of years with Superman Legacy. I hate to say it, but Superman Legacy, it's not going to make any money. And I think that DC know going forward that it's not going to make any money, being the first DCU movie out the gate. As long as it's critically received well and people enjoyed the movie going forward and it spurs people on to watch more DCU films. But yeah, Superman Legacy is not going to make any money, guys. So, the outlet reports that the film has estimated a production budget of 120 million. However, production estimates for the film vary. Deadline reported back in August that the production budget was 104 million, while Variety reported it was 125. So, regardless, the film has lost millions of dollars for DC, and just the latest example of how big a mistake the company made when DC Studios' CEO James Gunn announced he would be resetting DC with Superman Legacy back at the end of January. Yeah, guys, that was a really, really silly mistake on their part. To come out and announce that DC is being rebooted, it put a lot of people off because a lot of people were thinking, well, why am I going to bother to go and watch these DC films when you're just going to go and reboot the universe anyway? What's the point? But from my perspective as a DC fan, I don't look at it as an overarching universe. I look at it as an individual film basis. So whether they were resetting the DC universe or not, made no difference to me because I took each film as it comes as a solo outing, not as an overarching kind of cinematic universe. But yeah, it definitely put a lot of people off watching them. So if you use the most charitable production budget of 104 million, the film has currently lost 82.2 million, which uses the 2 times 5 factor that factors in box office split, the studio's take compared to theaters, as well as the marketing cost for the film. However, if the production budget is at 120 million mark, the film has lost Warner Brothers probably around 106 million. At the 125 million production budget mark, the loss bloats to around 113 million. Yeah, this is real bad, guys. So imagine if they lost 113 million. That's them basically the equivalent of them making a movie and then not making any money on it whatsoever. Like, if you spent 113 million on making a movie and then you made no money back from it whatsoever, like, that's how much money they lost. And 113 million is to even comprehend how much money that is just boggles the mind, So these losses are not out of the ordinary either. Every single DC live action film that has been released since James Gunn announced his DC universe would reset the DC film continuity has racked up millions in losses for the company. Yeah, their balance sheet, man, they must have red all over their balance sheets, like everywhere, just minus, red, red numbers all over the place. Metaphorically speaking, obviously, I don't know what their balance sheet actually looks like. I'm not an accountant, but yeah, you get what I'm saying, guys. So at the end of January, Gunn declared, first we have Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects very well. That moves directly into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love and that resets the entire DC universe. The Flash was horrific. Like Michael Keaton being in there, I just found completely pointless. I think they just, yeah, the Flash was, the CGI was awful. The story wasn't good. I felt like, Batman didn't need to be in it, and it was just kind of all over the place. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy that movie. And then to move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who was a marvelous part of DCU, and then in Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects, he said. And then obviously we've got the little announcement kind of reel here from James Gunn talking about Chapter 1 of Gods and Monsters. It's just kind of the first phase of the DCU reboot and kind of what films that they're going to have in the DCU reboot. Guys, if you want to watch it, go ahead and watch it so you can know which films are coming out in the first chapter. I won't play it for copyright reasons. So Shazam! Fury of the Gods raked in 132.1 million. The film had 125 million production budget. That means the film lost 108 million. Man, when you total up all these numbers, it's just I don't even know what to say, guys. It's just carnage, man. It's just like a film school of what not to do. How not to make money, basically. Going forward in years to come, film students and accountants and stuff like that, they're going to look back at the DC universe and they're going to, learn from it and not what to do in business, basically. So The Flash grossed only 267.9 million on a global box office based off an estimate 200 million production budget, albeit there are credible reports that the production budget was much higher, with CBC reporting the film cost 220 million. There are rumors that the film cost around 300 million as well. Oh man, could you imagine if they spent 300 million on that movie and it only made 267? Whew, someone's losing their job there. Someone's losing their job. Looking at the most charitable production budget of 200 million, the movie lost around 139 million. At the 220 million production mark, it lost around 169 million. And if it was 300 million, if those rumors are true, it lost $289 million. Oh, yeah. Could you even imagine losing $289 million? There's no words. If you look at the most charitable losses for each of these films, the losses total 329.2 million. It seems clear that announcing Gunn's DC universe and specifically claiming it would reset the current state of DC continuity in films has lost the company millions of dollars. Yeah, like I was saying, guys, absolutely ridiculous thing to come out and announce it. You don't announce you're resetting your shared cinematic universe before the last film comes out because, like I said, it turns people off. People think to themselves, well, if you're resetting this universe, who cares? Like, the stories are meaningless. They don't mean anything. I don't see it that way. As I say, guys, I see each film as a solo story. So, but a lot of people do see it as pointless if you're just going to reset the stories anyway. Whether or not Gunn's Superman Legacy and DC Universe can change the current trajectory is yet to be determined, but it's clear it needs to be widely successful to recover the massive amounts of money that the company burned moving ahead with the reset. Man, James Gunn, he's got so much pressure on his shoulders. He's rebooting the DCU. He's got to come out. He's writing and directing Superman Legacy. If that movie comes out, like I said, guys, I don't think it's going to make money, but if it comes out and bombs critically, financially, and just across the board, man, like, wow, that's going to be so horrific. And I'm gonna feel bad for the guy, taking on all that responsibility and then just kind of bombing. Whew. Yeah, I'm not sure what DC is going to do at that point, but it'd be interesting to see what happens, guys. The next few years are going to be very interesting for DC, guys. So, we're going to have a lot of news to talk about in the next couple of years, that's for sure. However, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO expects the company will actually incur more losses. During comments made at Moffett-Nathanson conference, Zaslav said, "We've greenlit a number of projects, and I think it's one of the best assets that was really underutilized and underdeveloped in the company. And we also have this philosophy at the company of no content before it's time. This year, we don't want to put a movie out or a game unless we think it's our best work." Well, absolutely. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I know that with a lot of these big tentpole companies, these studios, they have like deadlines to meet. And, there was a lot of stories about DC rushing out projects in the past because if you didn't get a film out at a certain time of the year, then, executives wouldn't be entitled to their bonuses and all this kind of like nonsense. And so they rushed out content so they could get their bonuses. But it looks like Zaslav, he's saying, look, we're not going to put stuff out unless the quality is where it needs to be. And that's absolutely fantastic. That's exactly where they should be. Like, they did it with the Batgirl. They didn't think Batgirl was up to par with the DC brand, so they didn't put it out. That was a fantastic thing to do. That's what they need to do going forward. if they make a movie and they don't think it's good enough, don't put it out because you don't want to ruin the DC brand. He then noted, quote, even if we do that, half the time or 2/3 of the time, it's not going to work. But the new cultural philosophy of the company, we're a storytelling company, the best creatives fight to make our content the best it can be. So far, the company has 3 major losses since their DC Universe reset announcement. Next up is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It's unclear whether or not it will break the trend or continue it. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, I think it's got a really good chance of making a decent amount of money. I don't think it's going to make anywhere near the amount that the first movie did. Obviously, the first movie went on to make over $1 billion. It was one of the most successful DCEU movies. So even if it makes half of what the first movie did, it would still make $500 million. That's being quite charitable, though, with the track record that DC's got at the moment. But I do think it's going to make some money because people really, really enjoyed the first movie. But just how much it's going to make, not sure. I think it's going to end up around 550, 600 million, maybe. That's my best guess, anyway. After Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is Gunn's Superman Legacy. It will be the real test on whether Zaslav's gamble on Gunn pays off. Yeah, man. Whew. What they're going to do if that movie fails? Well, I honestly, like, what do you do? If you bring out Superman Legacy and it fails, where do you go from there? Do you continue on with the DCU reboot? Do you go in a completely different direction? What do you do? Or do you just continue making Batman films for the next 20 years and don't make any other DC movies? So what do you make of Blue Beetle losing at least 80 million? Yeah, guys, so I know this is about Blue Beetle, but it's kind of about DC as a whole, really. And they've just absolutely plowed themselves into the ground at this point. People aren't interested in DC. People just, they've fallen off the DC bandwagon. I think a bit of superhero fatigue is setting in as well. People are kind of getting a little bit fed up with superhero movies now because after Endgame, I will say it, and I'll say it again, guys. After Endgame came and went, that was the pinnacle of what superhero movies could be. And we've never got back to the pinnacle of the Infinity Saga. It's never going to get better than that. And it kind of crescendoed with Endgame, and it's never been able to keep up the quality in DC and Marvel and on their streaming service, the Disney Plus streaming service. And so people are getting a little bit fed up with these mediocre superhero series and movies, and whether DC can claw it back. Like I say, guys, it's going to be an interesting few years to come. So we'll have to keep our eyes out. But yeah, guys, jump into the comment section. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think about DC losing all this money? Do you think that the Superman Legacy is going to lose money when it comes out as well? Do you agree with me, or do you think that it could go on to make loads of money? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.